Hey, welcome back to the table. So we're going to start the playthrough portion of this game. And so it all begins with scenario 1. So one thing the rulebook doesn't explain super duper well, although it is explained, it is there, is the sparrow, this space location, and in that space location is this mission 001. Okay, so we're going to grab the sparrow because we're actually going to use it for this mission, but we're going to do mission 1, and that is in this this giant book, campaign book. It's really thick, and it's a nice spiral-bound book that has a big, long story. Now, they have an app that will play the story. And to be quite honest, I don't know if there's copyright issues with me doing this on the YouTube, so I'm a little nervous with playing the app. The voice acting is okay. It's definitely going to be better than me, but it is riddled with issues. When I say issues, I mean errors. So the prologue tends to be pretty solid, but when you start getting into Act 1, Act 2, it gets very, very choppy. Some of the audio files are completely missing, and then some of it doesn't even match what the book says anymore. Like, it's pretty bad later. But, like, for the beginning, you'll be like, oh, this is sweet. So you can see here that there's like learn to play sections, right? That it's explaining things, and it even has like little barcodes that you can scan to learn more. I don't like reading all of this text, so I really, really wish I could play the app for you. But I worry because if there's a copyright issue, then my whole video that I'm making can get taken down, and I don't want that happening, because I don't want to re-record my video. So I think I have no choice but to grin and bear it. That's my whole choice of playing this game. If there's any reason I'm going to quit playing this game, it's because I'm tired of reading these stories. The story's okay. It's not super interesting to me. And maybe, the same will be for you. I don't know. I think there's a spectrum of people that have varying levels of tolerances or demands or expectations. Expectations is the word I was trying to find. So without further ado, let's just jump in. So the briefing room is full of chatter amongst the various cliques present. It's an uncomfortable mix of experienced pilots and trainees and a blend of the different species of the United Intergalactic Alliance. While you scan the room, you recognize a friendly face, a medallion named Sol. So we missed this when we played. Sol is a person that is not referencing the solar system that Earth is in, because later on you're getting a message from Sol, and so I understand. It says it very plain as day that it's a person, because medallion is a type of people, but my son and I did not pick that up. I think we were snoozing and just waiting to get to the first mission. But anyways, it's a person. This game does this a lot, by the way. It has people with names that are synonymous with something else, and it confuses you. Okay, he nods to you with his familiar grin. Welcome to the big time. Don't mess this up, or I won't get to see you looking this uncomfortable at the next briefing. There are smiles all around at the general ribbing. Someone congratulates him on his promotion to lieutenant when you're cut off. Captain Soma's entrance isn't dramatic or loud, but her presence brings an end to the chatter in the room. Attention, snaps Captain Soma in her stern Celestian accent. She has no patience for anything less than complete attention. The younger pilots have only ever seen her in news clips. The iron command in Soma's voice stops them cold. When your CO is present, idle chatter ends. Perhaps some of you require more time in training. She looks pointedly at the recruits who had failed to notice her arrival, and they sink down in their chairs. Not paying attention here and now will cost you out there, and not just you, it could cost the lives of others in this room. She doesn't have to single anyone out this time. So I think the game missed an opportunity. Instead of calling her Captain Soma, this should have been Captain Karen. I could be wrong, but I really think Karen was the perfect name for Captain Soma here. I expect conduct that is appropriate of a graduate going forward. You know what it means to be an Akarios Institute graduate, don't you? Yes, Commander, the room replies as one. The best of the best, Soma comments as she turns to the board, the slightest hint of a smile at the corner of her mouth. Today, we will introduce students to live flight tests. You will be doing simulations typical for established pilots. Assessment will be done by the senior pilots in the room, who will monitor from Medelia. As with all of your tests, you'll be reviewed on technical knowledge, problem-solving abilities, and strategic acumen. Soma continues, her tone now a touch softer. You will have to work together, without the assistance of a superior officer. I will be in orbit with a small crew aboard the Sparrow. We will be there to pick you up in case of an emergency. There is a collective intake of breath from around the room. To be monitored by an officer is one thing. To be assessed by Captain Soma herself is something else entirely. If there are no further questions, you all have your flight times. First group, proceed to the loading hangar and get ready for takeoff. Flight group is headed towards a crewed station that is to be destination A for training. When some hostile units show themselves on the radar, a rattled voice is heard over the radio. Is this part of the simulation? Are these real enemy ships? The Ronin are known to refit any ship that can get their hands on. However, these are the models that the richest guilds have made for themselves. The richest and most cutthroat. Immediately, Sol reaches out. Pilots, this is not a test. This is a real thing. Looks as though someone has hired Ronin mercenaries to attack one of our satellites. We don't have time to scramble fighters, so it's up to you. Captain Soma continues in her steady tone. Don't worry, you're not alone. Rendezvous with the Sparrow at these coordinates. Stay close so that we can support you. Let's play it safe, cadets. Sir, yes, sir. All right. So there's some stuff here we're going to skip. The objective is to eliminate all enemy ships before they destroy the satellite. There's some special rules for this mission. Enemies are disadvantaged, and we're going to talk about what the different advantage, all that stuff means in a second. They're disadvantaged when they attack pilots within 4 range of the Sparrow. This is already the first weirdness with the rules, and you're going to run into this throughout the entire game. So does that mean that the enemy has to be within 4 range of the Sparrow, or you have to be within 4 range of the Sparrow? So if the enemy attacks you and you're within 4 range of the Sparrow, but the enemy is not within 4 range of the Sparrow, does this still happen? And yes, your rules lawyer friends will not be invited for dinner after this is over, because you basically have to just decide and live with it. And it's not that important to the grand scheme of things, but the rules lawyer friends of yours will not allow the game to continue until you answer this. And so the rules are going to be like this. The scenarios in particular, you're going to run into this over and over and over again. Questions just like this. Scenarios where you're not quite sure. You can see it going either way. Okay? So just make a decision as a team. I'm going to do that here. Some of you might disagree with my decisions, and that's fine, but I'm just letting you know you have to make a decision, or otherwise this game's unplayable. And yes, you can run to Board Game Geek every time you run into one of these, but you're not going to have any fun if that's what you do. I would go to Board Game Geek, once a week, as my son and I were playing, and then just like read all the comments and then maybe try to help some others who are struggling with the rules. But at the same time, I would sometimes say, oh, okay, I never saw it that way before, but I could see. Anyways, you're going to get some of that knowledge where I've read on Board Game Geek that this is how it's supposed to play. This particular one, I don't know if it's been resolved on Board Game Geek or not. I don't think I care. Like, I'm basically saying that as long as the pilots are within 4 of the Sparrow, disadvantage happens. Okay? The Sparrow does not act and cannot be targeted. And everybody I've played this with, and it's been 6 human beings I've played this game with so far, hates this part of the game. The Sparrow is your freaking super carrier. It's the thing that your ships come out of, and it doesn't do anything. I do know that hour-long podcast that the developer was in, he actually did address this question because somebody complained exactly this point, and he said that through playtesting, he had to neuter the sparrow. So it was done for fun factor. Okay. The satellite has 10, and that symbol there means hull. 10 hull points per player. We're doing a 4-player game, so therefore the satellite is going to have 40 hull points. And it does a real good job of explaining what that means there. You can see in the parentheses. And then the enemies can and will target the satellite. So obviously if the satellite gets destroyed, we lose. I've never seen the satellite take more than 10 damage playing this. However, we're going to do a twist on this one. I am going to play this on the abyssal difficulty level. So I've never done that before. But if I've played this game, like I said in the setup video, up through until Act 2. And then we're like a few missions in on Act 2, and then my son had to leave for college. So I can't continue this game with him. We were having a blast, he and I. We just ran out of time. The one thing, though, we were both contemplating is that we felt that the missions were getting too easy. And the honest answer is it's not that the missions are getting easy. It's just that once you get the hang of the game and you figure out what you need to do, you get good at it. Like you're actually better than you normally would be, right? And so we were contemplating playing at a higher difficulty level. So we're going to try it. I'm going to just amp it up to the maximum difficulty level. And I am not promising you I can win, because I think this abyssal difficulty level is really hard. And since it's really hard, I'm just going to tell you right now, if I get wiped and all this other stuff, I'm not redoing missions. I'm going to pretend like I won. Or we're going to retcon it until I try something different. Where I put hours and hours and hours into these playthroughs. I play these games for many hundreds of hours. And if I were not recording, I would have no problem doing that, because I want to move forward in the game. I don't want to keep replaying the same mission over and over. So my son and I have never lost a mission, normal difficulty. When he and I played, we each controlled 2 ships each. We never lost once. We never even came close to losing. So that's the reason why I'm saying that maybe we can amp up the difficulty. But I might be going too far. So we'll just see how this plays out. Okay, so then when you flip this over, it's going to show how to set up the map, and we're going to do exactly this. So I'll let you take a quick look here, so then you guys can tell me how much I got wrong after I set it up. It does say what ships are in the game at the bottom, which I find very helpful. The one thing that's not helpful is you got to say, okay, we got the Ronin frigate is in the game, and the Ronin scout's also in the game, but which one's which? And you have to look at the pictures. So this one's a pretty easy one, because the frigate is facing to the left and the scout is facing to the right. So here you can see right, 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 left, right? So this is the only frigate in the game. Now, don't get thrown off, because the frigate has yellow in it, but this is a elite unit, which is yellow. These are regular units, which are red, and that's an elite right-facing unit. This is a regular left-facing unit. And the left-facing unit happens to be yellow. I mean, it can throw you off. Let's just put it that way. Now, when you get into the science vessels, which we're not going to run into those until Act 1, the science vessels in particular drive me nuts, because the pictures look so similar, like one ship to the next. They have like slight variations, and you have nothing telling you which is which other than the picture. And a big criticism I have is that the picture's not enough. There should be a symbol or something here to tell me that that's a scout and that's a frigate. I should not have to just look at a picture and try to figure it out. And this is a very simple mission, but later on there's going to be a lot more stuff on, and it's going to be even harder to read. Now, one thing that's cool about recording this is that when I look at it through the camera, it's zoomed in better. So like if I look at it with my naked eye, I can't see it as well as I can through the camera. Like I could very clearly see that this is a frigate and that's a scout without even looking at that this one's left and that one's right. So I sort of like this. This might actually help me a little bit. But so anyways, here we go. We're going to put the Sparrow here and then the A there, and then all the ships, these little white dots are indicating which direction they're facing at the start of the mission. And then this here is telling us that we can start our ships on any of those locations. It's up to us. We do play, this is my house rule, and if you're going to watch my videos, it's going to be the house rule for us. We are going to play where this is not locked in stone until we start actually taking our turn. And technically speaking, you're supposed to lock this in stone, but the problem is then you have to analysis paralysis this thing, because wherever you decide to go, it's going to matter. So we play, hey, let's just start the mission and talk through what we want to do, and somebody will go, I want to go this way. And then it's like, okay, well, let's put you here because that positions you better to go that way. But then they start looking at their skill and they got this flank skill that makes them go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then they're over here. And they're like, well, okay, now I can shoot this guy. Well, I want to start there, and I want to be facing this way and not that way because now I can use my skill and end up over here. I'm just throwing out hypotheticals, but there's all these permutations for how you could start the mission. And I play it, my house plays it, where we, in order to avoid analysis paralysis, because people will refuse to decide where their ship's going to be and what orientation their ship's going to face, because they know there's so much at stake. So we let them, we'll go into turn 1, and then we'll swap stuff around or whatever once we get our plan figured out, and then we'll let them go ahead and execute the plan. And trust me, it doesn't break the game at all. You're just basically speeding it up a little. And so now we stop reading. There is a success portion, like if we succeed at the mission, which means we have to eliminate all the ships, then we will read this, and we will get this reward. And if we fail, we read this, and we will get that reward instead. And then no matter what we do, success or fail, we do the conclusion. Okay? So this is the basic structure format for all the space battles. They're all going to follow a format like this. There is planet exploration. There is space exploration. So this game does have other things that you will do. It's not all going to be space battles. Lastly, getting back to the point of why I'm doing the harder difficulty, Josh and I never failed a mission, not once. And so, anyways, it's one of those things where, once you do this and you're on your 40th or 50th mission, it does get a little boring. So we're going to maybe spice it up a little. Okay. So with that said, the hard part here is you have to baseline yourself. So I'm going to look here. This is 1, 2, 3. So between the third and the fourth one, there's this middle bar, 1, 2, 3 up. Okay. So then we come over here, 1, 2, 3. Between the third and the fourth one, 1, 2, 3 up. And that is where the Sparrow goes. And the Sparrow is facing up. We'll say north. We're in space. There is no such thing as north in space, but I'm going to say it, and none of you are going to complain about it. Thank you. Okay, so then all of our ships will be loosely around the edge. And remember, I just said that we're not going to worry about what position they're in yet until we start the mission. But we're going to at least just put them there because this is where they would go. Okay, so then I'm going to look at this map again, and I can see from the Sparrow, if I go down and to the left, so southwest, 1, 2, 3, and then northwest, 1, I get to put in a one of these. So here we go, 1, 2, 3, and then 1. This will go like that. And it doesn't matter which one you grab. As long as it's an asteroid of 3, that's all that matters. Then 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the satellite. Then from the satellite, we need to get another one of these asteroids and go 1, 2. And then also from the satellite, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we got one of those. And that's the features part. And then we're going to have one frigate, which I'm going to put here. And then we're going to have, and the frigate is a regular frigate, so I got to turn it to the red side. And then we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 scouts. One of them is elite. So the yellow, it says the word elite here. That's the yellow elite. So then you have to look. I'm trying to hold this with one hand here. The hull value is 8 and the shield is 0. So shield is 0, but the hull is 8. And then here the hull is 6. Here the shield is 6 and the hull is 8. And then 6, 6, and 6. Yes, it's the devil's game. Okay. So we got all that down. And then I set up all the miniatures. So what we have to do next is, for example, the frigate is the big one, and it's got a number 4. See that little number 4 on the top corner? So what I have to do is I have to grab these tokens here, and we have to find the number 4 and just flip it over. It's on the regular side or the elite side, right? So we're going to use the regular side. And then we take our frigate or in like so. Okay, and I'm just going to set that down. And then I have 5. Sorry, I just got to get a spot where my camera tripod can sit. So then I have 5 of these, and one of them is going to be elite. So the elite one has the number 2, and you have to look at these cards over here and make sure they match your cards. Because what you're trying to do is, so the red 4 is going to correspond to this red 4. You know, the number 2 has to be elite, and then the 3, 1, 3, 5, and 6 are going to be regular. So the 2 will be elite. And then you got 1. And yeah, it's when you got fat fingers, it's a little rough getting that in there. 1, 3, 5, and 6. Okay, and yeah, it can be a little painful, and this is where having other players around can help you set it up quicker. This goes a lot quicker when somebody does this job while somebody else is doing that job. So this is the painful part. Okay, so now we gotta just look at the board, and well, this guy here is going to be facing what we would call south, directly north of this point on the asteroid. So I go straight up and he's facing directly towards us. Then one of the regular ones is going to be over and up, facing south. Another regular one is going to be down, facing that direction. And then we have 1, 2, and then 1, 2. And that one's going to be facing us, this direction. Then there's going to be, this guy is going to be here, facing that way. And then the elite one is going to be facing directly south, 1, 2, 3, so right there. We're going to face straight south. Okay. That is the setup for the mission. Okay? All right, so there's a couple more administrative things we need to do. And I need to pause real quick so I can get this stuff out. And we'll get that out of the way, and then we will get cracking with the mission. I've never played this harder difficulty before. So if you're playing normal difficulty, you just do exactly what you see. But the Abyss level difficulty, or normally we play normal. So what it's saying with normal is that the hull per enemy is 0. The shield per enemy is 0. The attack per enemy is 0. And the credit bonus is also 0. So if you're playing normal, then it's exactly how it's listed. But if we're playing Abyss, we got to add 3 more hull to every enemy, 3 more shield to every enemy, and then every enemy is going to attack for 4 more damage. This is the part that has me nervous. These other ones I'm not as scared about, but the 4 extra attack per enemy is deadly, super deadly to us. That can kill us. It really, really can. And then we're going to get 5 extra gold credit bonus. That's per pilot. So I'm actually going to get 20, right? Because each pilot gets 5. So we're going to get 5 more credits for doing this extra difficulty. So it's a little bit of a reward. And it's a pretty nice reward because everything costs the same, even if you're playing a higher difficulty level. So you're going to have more money at the higher difficulty level. So one of the things then that I just realized that we need to do is I need to add, for example, we're at 8 hull here. I need to go 9, 10, 11, right? And then the shield needs to go 1, 2, 3. And then here I need to go 8, 9, or 7, 8, 9. And they normally have 0 shield, but now they're going to have 3, then 3, and then this one's going to go 9, 10, 11, and 3, and 8, 3, I'm sorry, not 8, 9, I meant to say, 3, and 9, like that. So everybody is going to get a little 3 shields and 3 hull boost, which is basically means everybody has 6 more hit points. That is significant. So this definitely will make it harder. A lot harder, in fact. So I might be stupid doing this. So we're going to find out. Okay, I'm going to pause this, and then we got to do one more administrative thing, and then we can go. Okay, so I was just reading the rules about the harder difficulty. The rules allow us to make it harder per mission. So I could say, hey, for this next mission, I don't want to do the hard rules, and I can tweak it back down to normal. It's very flexible that way, but so was Gloomhaven. So again, this is like a concept that was stolen from Gloomhaven. So yeah, I got out the administrative stuff, and I need to pause one more. I just realized I need one more thing, so I'll be right. Okay, so I got to get the camera situated here. Let's try. It's the tripod. This tripod is, so my table is in the way. Like I want the tripod to sit right here, and I'm trying to get, there we go. That actually looks really good. Okay, we got to do this administrative work. So every pilot has their own sheet. So what they do is there's 2 ships per pilot. I don't think that's a limitation. It's just that, on the sheet, you can pilot 2 different ships potentially. On each mission, you pick one and only one ship to pilot, of course. And so right now, we spent a lot of time in that last video talking about which ships go with which pilot, right? So for example, Starla is piloting the Merkava. So what you would do is you would write Merkava here. And at some point, you're going to get what's called a ship ability or ship skill point. And then you would check this box here, and then that gives you a level 1 ship ability. And that's how we unlock the level 1. And then we can actually choose different upgrade paths to give ourselves more hull points or more shield points. And then we eventually unlock a level 2 ability, and then eventually a level 3 ability. Now these 2 little symbols here aren't very well described in the rule book, but they do make sense. You're limited to when you dock your ship at a market, you can buy a ship upgrade at the market. It like mostly the time it costs like 50 gold to do. Well, what it's saying here is you can buy 2 upgrades. And so this is your limit, for the whole game. You can buy 2 upgrades, but that's per ship. So if you ever unlock another ship for your pilot and you start using that ship, then you can buy 2 more upgrades for that ship. So that's what this means, is this is letting you check the box. So if you ever buy an upgrade, you would check that box to show that you bought one of your 2 possible upgrades. Now this trauma thing is nasty. This is for when you get knocked out or KO'd. You'll gain trauma, which then means when you gain stress, your trauma can be worse. So you don't want trauma. And then, of course, we have to do a call sign and a squad name for everybody. And yeah. Now, this part at the bottom here is there's 3 skill trees. And then as you gain experience points, you can see there's little medals here. And it's got a line divided, right? So if I gain 1 pilot skill point, I would fill in one of these, but I need to fill in 2 of them in order to unlock this ability. And then what these abilities are is they change your modifier deck. So if you've played Gloomhaven before, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But your modifier deck, let's just take a quick look at it, has like -1. So let's say I do an attack that does 3 damage. I'm going to draw a card, and I draw this -1. Well, now I'm only doing 2 damage. So this -1 card sucks, right? Then I have this one's a ×2 card. I want more of those, baby. This one is a neutral. And then, oh, there's one. That's an awesome one, right? I add 2 damage to my attack. So now I'm doing 5 damage, and so forth. And then you can see there's a -2. And then somewhere in here is the dreaded, right there, the dreaded miss. Right? That means you didn't do squat, and you are among the honor squad for the stormtroopers. So, okay. So getting back to the pilot skills, what these are cards that you can add to your deck. So there's a couple things going on here. First of all, this lets you unlock a pilot ability, which is these cards. So I'm just trying to grab it with my free hand here. So Violet Ray, for example, has pilot ability 1 unlocked, and you can see there's a 2, 3, well, the 2 I forgot to pick up. There's a 2, a 3, and a 4. So in order to unlock those, I have to unlock everything up the skill tree until I get to the pilot ability. So you can see it's going to take a long time to get these pilot abilities unlocked. Now, the one thing Josh and I sort of griped about is you would think that pilot ability 4 would be a kick-butt pilot ability, but sometimes we're like, you know what, the first pilot ability that you start the game with is actually the best one. So we're not very impressed. So some of the times unlocking these pilot abilities is not your priority, but it's there. Then here with the ship, with the little arrow going up, that's one of these ship points that we just finished talking about. So you can upgrade your ship here, here, and here. But this is a choice. You either go left and upgrade your combat deck, or you go right and upgrade your ship. But you can't do both. So that's something you're going to have to balance in this game. And when you unlock a new ship, and you've already gone up this tree all the way to the top, and you missed all these opportunities, you don't get to upgrade your ship anymore. You have to use a different tree. Now, when you go up these trees, you don't have to pick one tree and go all the way to the top before you go to the next one. The only rule is you have to start at the bottom. So I can unlock this skill, and then this one, and then this one in my first 6 pilot points, right? I can go here, here, and here, and just evenly go up each one, or however you want to do it. So I don't want to belabor these, but real quick, at the very top, you're either upgrading your ship, or when you're on the planet, you have these skills. So Violet Ray, for example, has 0, 2, 2, 0. So this heart is a 0, but if I go here, I can get a +1 heart. So if this was filled in, I would now be able to treat this as if that was a 1. And I know that doesn't mean anything to you right now, but it is extremely helpful when you're on planet. So Starla, for example, can upgrade her might, her heart, and her intelligence. And this is, Starla starts the game as a jack of all trades, where she has one of everything. So this hand is the only one that she doesn't get to upgrade. Okay, so some other things. When you see a -1 or a +2, it literally means that you're going to take the -1 card out of your deck. So this says a -1 and then it has a little -2 below it. That means I'm going to go into my deck and I get to get rid of 2 of these -1 cards. That's nice. Or if I go this way, I can go in, I can add to my deck a 1 + 2. So I'm taking away 2 of these -1s, or I'm adding a +2. Sorry. Sorry again. Okay. So you can see here there's a pretty interesting path where we can add a +1 to her deck here, subtract the -1 here, and subtract 2 more -1s there. So I have to choose between adding a +2 or subtracting 2 -1s, but I could get rid of 3 -1s and add a +1 if I were to take this path. And then there's other things, like this is a little supply symbol, this is a repair symbol, this is what they call a target jam, this is a target lock, this is a hack, this is a rotate, this is a lose 1 stress, this is armor piercing. I'm sorry, I'm off camera here. This one's armor piercing. So there's a whole bunch of symbols that you don't know yet. And we don't need to worry about these yet because we are at level 0 for our pilot skill. But as we gain skills, we're going to start adding points to these, and then it's going to matter because you might be like, well, I may want to go up this way first. And it's going to be nice to know what those different skills are. Now, if you ever have any curiosity about those, the game does... Oh, crap, sorry. So sorry. Okay, the game does give you... So for world exploration, you can see these are the different skills that I was talking about, and you're going to be doing skill checks. So that's why those numbers matter, okay? For the space exploration, it explains things there, but this is the thing I wanted to show you. These are combat effects, so advantage, bolster, radar jam, repair, resupply. Like we were talking about some of these, like that one was on Starla's sheet. The other one was hack, pierce, which is the armor piercing. This one has been really confusing on Board Game Geek. You'll even see posts from me confused about it, but I got it figured out now. There's pull and push and all kinds of stuff, okay? We'll go into these as we run into them. But when you're looking at your player card, your sheet for Starla, for example, it's just loaded with all these that you may not understand. It is actually very overwhelming to a new player, and I've had to tell everybody I've been playing with or teaching this game to, just ignore it for now. But we're going to get a pilot point if we succeed at this mission. Like, we're going to get one right away. So even though you ignore it for now, you're not going to ignore it for very long. And so you'll eventually have to figure out which of these 3 trees you want to try, to go up. Okay, so now that I did that to death, everybody's different. Violet Ray, for example, he's got the hand, which Starla did not have. And then he has different symbols. Like there's that armor pierce again, but here, look, that's a stun. This one is a slow. Starla doesn't have either of those on her sheet. So they have different abilities. And then this one here, I'm pretty sure, yeah, that's a stealth. So stealth is awesome. So he can go into stealth when he draws that card. And then, again, Giardian is going to be a little different. And then Enver, of course, is going to be different again. Everyone has their own little subtle differences. And one thing I haven't done is studied the difference from one to the next. Like maybe, just maybe, Enver here has some abilities that would make him better in a certain type of ship. I have no idea. I didn't study it that much. I think this is insane. He gets to put 2 stun cards or 2 slow cards in his deck. That's a lot. I didn't play as this character. This was my son Josh's character. So I'm looking at this for the first time. And I think it's interesting because none of the other characters have that kind of feature. So, okay. now that I've belabored that to death, we got to fill these in. And there's a couple of things we have to do. So, for example, we have to come up with a squad name. All right. So, I'm from Pittsburgh. So Josh and our squad was the Yinzers. And if you don't know what a Yinzer is, just Google it, and I'm sure there's plenty of hits that will explain that. And then the other game I played, it was all Top Gun. There were the Top Gunners, and one person was Maverick, one person was Goose, stuff like that. So I don't know exactly what we're going to do here, but I think we're just going to be called Jeff, because I never came up with a channel name. I'm just Channel Jeff. So that's, darn it, they're going to be the name of our squad too. Now, there is an interesting story there. I don't mean to sidetrack, but in order for me to have channel name Jeff, I am like literally Jeff. I don't have to use any special symbols, nothing. That means that I was one of the first people to create a YouTube account when it came out. Like the very first. And it was largely because I was in an IT department and we were using Google at the time. And, YouTube was owned by Google. Anyways, long story short of it is I made one, but I never actually did any videos or anything. It's just that I had a Google account or a YouTube account. Actually, I think Google they own it now. I think it was owned by Yahoo or something like that before. It doesn't matter. The point is that I needed to create one. And of course I just called it Jeff because that was my name and it was available. You know how insanely crazy it is to have your name on a channel. And so now I do this board game stuff and everybody's like, why aren't you using a board game channel name? And it's like, it's actually harder to have a channel called Jeff than it is to have a channel called Board Losers or Boarderifics. So I sort of like, I'm a stubborn thing about, this is actually harder to do. So I don't want to change it. Anyways, with that being said, we are going to be Jeff Channel or Jeff Squad, and we need to have some call sign pilots. So since Starla is a woman, I'm going to name her after my dog. So her call sign is going to be Mindy. Call sign Mindy. So pilot 1 will be Mindy. Then we're going to go ahead and do Enver here. No, Giardian. Giardian is our stun guy. And the person who really loved stunning was my son, who's off to college, and I miss him very much. He has lived with me his whole life, of course, and it's very weird not having him here. So we're going to add him to the game, and he will be call sign Josh. All right, so we got that. Then Enver here is going to be in honor of probably one of the largest commenters on. And here you go, sir. JB. Welcome to the channel, JB. And then we can't forget Andrew. Welcome to the channel, Andrew. I mean, Violet Ray's, he looks Canadian to me. Enver, I mean, that's a German name, right? Seems good. And then, yeah, we'll get it. And I apologize, because I know there's more than just 2 of you that watches my channel. And the 2 of you, of course, are the ones that seem to watch all of the stuff, whereas some of you are more interested in one game over another. But anyways, my apologies to those that didn't make it on, but I'm still glad to have you here. And I will never ask for a like or subscribe, though, but I do appreciate it if you do. I will never ask for it, though. So, with that being said, let's get going. Okay, so what are these sheets for? Like I said, when you level up points, you need to keep track. But then we have an overall sheet here. This is for the campaign. So one of the things I can tell you is that like we're doing the prologue right now, and we're going to do some choose your own adventure stuff, and we're going to make choices. So you can see here it says wisdom or cowardice. So if I make a choice, I might get this, I have to check that box because I made a choice to, was it wise or was I a coward? So this is very likely a runaway situation, right? So if we run away, I'm going to have to check that box. And then later in the game's going to ask me, do you have this box checked? If yes, then, you're going to go to certain outcomes. So you're not going to always know how something impacts you. Now, some of the missions that we do in this game can only be done once. And so what they do is like, for example, if I what's a good example of that? I'm just looking at this. It's funny. I don't like all these seem like they're related to the actual campaign. Barren Rocks. There's one. We might get a mission called Barren Rocks. And let's say we do the mission and we succeed and we get the rewards. Well, because we do space exploration, we could always come back and do Barren Rocks again. Well, the scenario book is crafty that way. It'll say if you've already done Barren Rocks, then you can't do the mission another time. So the prerequisite to doing the Barren Rocks mission is to not have Barren Rocks checked. And then as soon as you complete the Barren Rocks mission, then one of the rewards is you check that box. So these aren't always going to like affect you in the future. Some of them, like this wisdom or cowardice, I can guarantee you is going to affect, like you're going to make that decision now, and then some future mission, it's going to come back and haunt you or reward you. These ones are examples of ones where it's just basically a little mechanism to keep track of which missions did you do, so you're not doing them a second time or a third time and continually getting the rewards. So it's a one-time rewards type of thing. Okay, I know I beat that to death. We are 47 minutes in, and I haven't even moved a single ship. So let's get cracking. Okay, first thing we have to do is everybody's combat deck, or modifier deck is what it's called here, has to be shuffled. And I'm going to just shuffle them as I go, but I just wanted to show that. And then all 4 players, so I have Violet Ray's dice. You have to roll your dice at the start of your turn. So when it's the start of your turn, there's actually a little checklist of, what happens. I did it again. My apologies. I wonder if it's here. World Space Combat. So right here. So first thing you do is you increase your shields by 1. That's only if you actually had shield damage. We're going to roll our action dice, which I just showed you. And then we're going to assign our dice and update combat effects. Then we do the enemy, then we do end of round, and then we just rinse and repeat over and over again until somebody wins. Okay, so Violet Ray, for example. Violet Ray's ship has a 4, so hull value is 4, shield value is 4. And then I just rolled some dice, and I'm going to just put those dice right here on Violet Ray because I need to, basically I'm going to mark that. Now, one of the things that I'm contemplating doing is I might just put all of their ships here with their dice on them, so that way I'm not doing all of this all the time. But you know what? I can use some core exercises, so I might just do that instead. Okay, so Starla here, I need all kinds of stuff. Let me put the camera down. I gotta grab the yellow, blue, and purple. So her shields are 2, her hull is 6, and then here's her dice. Oops. I'm gonna just re-roll. I only had 3 dice. There we go. That's actually a good roll. Okay, and then Enver, same deal. Enver's got these dice, and Enver has 8 hull and 1 shield and 0 stress. By the way, the purple stress, everybody starts with 0 stress normally. It is possible that a pilot will have stress at the start of a mission, but that's not normal. And then Jordan here is going to have only 2 hull. That's all he has is 2 hull and 5 shield. That's crazy. So the Gnosis does not, it blows up pretty easily. So we got to be really careful with him. And I haven't rolled his dice yet. So here we go. Okay, so like I said, at the start of your turn, you gain a shield, but you're never going to gain more than your maximum value. And so, taking Violet Ray for example, his shields are 4, his hull is 4. If he started the round with shields lower than 4, he would be able to increase it by 1. And it's, for the most part, one of the only ways your shields recharge. The enemies have shields as well, but just understand that the enemies don't automatically recharge their shields. So if you get their shields to 0, it stays at 0, unless there's specifically a card that says to recharge the shields. So number one mistake of a new player is that because you get to recharge a shield at the beginning of your turn, you think that they get to, but that's not the case. The next thing to understand is that these asteroids cause 1 damage for every time you go through the space, and it's the damage to your hull. And it doesn't matter how many shields you have. You're taking hull damage if you're going through that. That counts for us and the enemy. So if you've played Gloomhaven, this is just the equivalent of traps. And so you want the enemy to go through them. And the enemy does have like myopic radar lock or mental lock. So meaning that once they target somebody, they will fly directly through asteroids to get to them if that's what it takes. So you can take advantage of that, and you can force the enemy to go through these asteroids, which will help you to get an edge on taking them down. Okay, the other thing is that the satellite has 40 health. So one of the ways to track that is we have 2 empty enemy slots here. So we're going to go ahead and do, this is a 30 and a 20 and a 10. So that tracks the health for the satellite. So that is done. Okay, we rolled our dice, and now we got to decide what are we going to do and how are we going to do it and all that jazz. And I apologize, I'm just trying to get my camera situated here. Okay, let me make sure it still works. It does, and of course I knocked everything over. All right, so what we want to do is we want to murder, death, kill. The enemy, in a nutshell, will always target whoever's closest to them first. And that A there, that satellite, is a target for them. So they will target the A first if that's what they're closest to. If there's multiple targets that are equally close, then they target whoever has the highest hull strength first. And so that could vary. And then if that's tied, then we get to decide after that. Okay? So I know you don't know exactly how the enemy AI works. You're going to see that as soon as we're done with our turn here. But if you just keep in your mind that they target whoever's closest, then whoever has the highest hull strength, and then we decide. Like, that's the only thing you need to understand for this phase. Because it is important, because we're going to do movement actions and attack actions. And because I'm playing on the hard difficulty, I'm probably not even going to destroy one single ship this first round. So that means they're all going to get to take a turn. And then if they're taking turns, I need to make sure that I'm, setting myself up for success. Okay, so Giarden is on the Gnosis, which is this ship here. And I like where he's located. So I'm actually going to keep him there. I may change his rotation to this way. I haven't decided that yet, but I like that location. Starla being over here, I'm not so keen on. And so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to move her here to the front. And of course I knocked over the sparrow, but that's okay. I'll just put the sparrow back here. So Starla's going to be straight up front. And then these two, I need to think this through. I may switch their order or whatever. I haven't thought about them yet. My mind is I'm going to go ahead and target this ship right here, number 6. We're going to go after this guy first. We're going to gang up on him. And that's the way you play this. You got to gang up on someone and eliminate him. However, Giardian is our stun guy, and I'm going to stun that one and that one, number 3 and number 1. And I keep dunking over this dang sparrow. See, he's useless even in battle. Okay. Let's get the camera more oriented there. All right, so let's see if I can... First of all, I want to stun 1 and 3. So let me see if I can do that. So how do I stun 1 and 3? This EMP blast, I'm going to just grab the card here. This EMP blast, I'm using a tripod and it's definitely got issues. All right, I can hit anything that's within range of 3. I can hit 2 targets and I'll do 1 damage. The 1 damage is not what I'm concerned about. It's this effect right here called stun. That's what that picture means. That stuns them. So what stun does is it prevents them from being able to shoot their weapon. They can still move, they can still rotate, but they can't shoot their weapon until the end of their turn. So if I can stun 1 and 3, then they won't be able to attack us and do that massive damage that this hard mode that we're playing would allow them to do. This is where, you know, if you're brand new to Akarios and you've never played Gloomhaven before, you definitely don't want to play hard mode. And this whole EMP blast thing is part of the trick to making this game easier, because you need to EMP blast them, and that makes it so it's not so bad. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to try to get the EMP blast on 1 and 3. Okay. So in order to do that, this ship here needs to be within 3 spaces of these 2. So if you count their own space, this is 1, 2, 3. So if I'm here, I'm 2 spaces away from both of them. But I could also be here and still be 3 spaces away. So all I have to do is be in this general area. So that's what I want to do. I want to get moved to here. So the dice that he has are those 4. And then he has flank. Now we also have, I'm going to raise chart here because it's just closer to me. But everybody has basic actions. You can use a die to rotate your ship. A rotate lets you move rotations, or if you prefer the degree notation, 120 degrees. So you get to rotate twice or 120 degrees. Each rotation or each turn is 60 degrees. So you get to go twice. Okay. This here is you spend 3 dice, and it has to be... A friend pointed out that this is confusing because it looks just like these actions, but that's not the case. You have to spend 3 dice, and if you do, then you go into repair mode. So you'll repair 2 hull, you lower 2 stress, and you also get to recharge or resupply 2 of your cubes. So we don't need to use this right away, but this is definitely an important action later. This lets you do this type of movement where you move forward 1 space and then you go left or you go right. So you're actually moving 2 spaces, either 1 into the left or 1 into the right. And you can do this 2 times. So this is not, I need 2 dice. I can do it with just 1 die. And then here, I can do the same thing. I don't need 2 dice, just 1. And I can just shoot forward 3 spaces. This is a basic attack, so I can hit anybody in this general area. And if I play 1 die, I can hit 1 target for 1 damage. Or if I play 2 dice, I can hit 1 target for 2 damage. And then, of course, we have our engine, right? I can put a die here for that. And then we have, this one requires 2 dice, or I can't do it at all. Okay? Now, you might be noticing he had this. That is a stress die. It's a wild. You can use it as anything. So it's very powerful. However, you gain 1 stress if you use that die. Now, the one exception is if you use that die here, you don't gain stress for using it as one of these 3 dice. But anywhere else you use it, you gain a stress. Stress is not evil. It's just you have to control it. And stress sometimes is very helpful. Like on the burn and flip here, it shows a little stress symbol right here. So that means if I use a stress symbol here instead of the regular movement die, then I get to not only do this move, but I can rotate during the move. Like before or after I do the move, I can rotate. And I think some people in Board Game Geek really got anal about this. I do agree that you can't rotate mid-move. So that part I'm going to agree with. But I think some people are in the camp of you can rotate before you move, or you can rotate after you move. And then there's another camp that just says you can only rotate after you move. This rotate is an effect after you've done the original movement. I think that's really restrictive, to be honest with you. We like it where you could do before or after your move. It seems to be you're getting stress for the action, and it should be a powerful one. But I do want to explain it to you because I don't want you correcting the comment. To me, this is a house rule situation, but I am at least give some parity here. I think that the hardcore will only tell you that rotation may occur after you've done a move. I think it's stupid. I personally do, but I think that that's how people are interpreting the rules. So, and you can argue that by allowing you to rotate before you do the move, that's making the game easier. And that's true. I don't disagree, but easier times two in the same pot. So, okay. Here is we have, in order to do the stun, and to stun 2 targets, I need 2 attack dice. And I happen to have 2 attack dice. I have 1 attack die here, and then I have a wild, which is either an attack or a move, right? So that's there. And I'm realizing I really don't like the location of this thing because I can't put the camera in a good spot. Here we go. It actually works. I'll flip it. Is I want to do something like this where I'm going to move forward and over, and then I'm going to do something like this where I get to shoot 3 spaces forward. So let's come back over to the game board and see how that would work. So for the first basic action, I could move forward 1 and then over 1, and that gives me like I rotate along with it, right? Because that's the way the basic action looks. Just to bring it back here, right? So I moved forward and then turn. So that was 2, 3. I didn't need to do that. I actually could have stayed right here, and I was 1, 2, 3 away from that one more space forward. So it gets tricky because I could have done the other basic action. So instead of moving forward 3, I could have done the same basic action again and move forward 1 and then 1 like that. And in fact, that's actually what I'm going to do. So I'm going to change my decision, and we're going to do the basic action twice. So I moved up and over, and then I'm going to move over and up. Okay? And then we're going to go here, and we're going to do this guy. And card for you, because trying to bring this camera over is not going to do justice. So this is the card we're doing. These are the dice we're doing it with. And I put the dice near the top, because if I put the dice here, look at what I'm doing. The numbers we need to see are now blocked. So I put the dice up here, and I think my feedback for the game is if they ever do a second edition, these little dice symbols need to be up here because I need to see these numbers at the bottom. So what this is saying, and I've gone through this several times now, but it's saying a range of 3. Okay, and since I'm using 2 dice, we're going to read the one on the right. A range of 3, I can target 2 targets. I'm going to do 1 damage, and then every target that I hit is going to be stunned. That's what this is saying. So, and then the range is like a radial range in all directions. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do that, and I'm going to try to hit both of these ships, number 1 and number 3, because they're both in range 3. Now, when you do attacks, I think the rule book says that you need to draw a line of sight from the front of your ship. So let's say that this ship was here. The front of your ship is, the center of the front of your ship is this little spine, right? Here, right in the middle, to whatever other ship you're trying to hit. It doesn't matter where on the ship you hit them. Just need to be able to draw a line. If you go, the circles like this, or you can shoot into it but not through it. So if somebody's here and you're here, you can for sure shoot him. But if he's here and you're here, you can't shoot through this to get to him. And then also, you can be blocked, like if you're here and he's there, and the center of and you're facing this way, the center of yours can't reach him without going through some form of asteroid. So you can't go through it. You can go to it, but not through it. So that's basic gist. Now, whenever you have a radial effect like this, where there's no pattern being drawn on the card, you basically shoot out in all directions. And yes, you can shoot even behind you. I don't know why people on Board Game Geek are hung up over this, but yes, you can shoot through your own ship. I don't understand. And you can shoot through other ships too. Nobody blocks your shot in this game. So the only thing that blocks you are the asteroids, the planets, which are up there, and then we haven't talked about them yet, but the nebulas also block your shot. Okay, so I know that was long-winded, but we got to get through the basics here. Then I need to shuffle it. And the next concept is, we haven't talked about advantage and disadvantage. Advantage is you're going to draw 2 cards, you take the best one. Disadvantage is you're going to draw 2 cards and take the worst one. And then if you have both advantage and disadvantage, then they cancel each other out. And then on a normal attack, I'm going to just draw a card. So I would just draw whatever's on top, and I live with whatever I draw. If I have advantage, I'm going to draw the top 2. Well, most of the time it's top 2. There's an exception, but we won't talk about that at the moment. You have to have roller cards, and we don't have any roller cards yet. So now we get to the next highly debated topic on Board Game Geek. Yes, the rules don't cover these things, folks. That's why I'm saying the rules they're good, but they're missing things. So the way this works is you have advantage if you are behind, and the rules are very clear on this. So this one, you can see he's facing that direction. So these 3 hexes are his front, and these 3 are his rear. So as long as you're in just think of like an arc that starts here on this direction and then ends here on that direction. Because you take the 3 hexes, and as long as you're somewhere in that arc and you're shooting him, you have advantage. Now there is a Board Game Geek crowd that thinks that you can't get advantage when you shoot a gun that doesn't have this. See, like that has a pattern? You're guaranteed to have advantage if that pattern is shooting somebody in the rear. Because of this EMP blast, there is no pattern, it's just a radial attack. They argue that you don't get advantage when you do that. I think they're absolutely full of rubbish. The rule book is very clear. If you're shooting him up the butt, you get advantage. If you're not shooting him up the butt, you don't get advantage. It doesn't matter what kind of weapon you're shooting him with. So the EMP base is going to have advantage against 3. He is not going to have advantage against 1 because look, he's facing this way. So we are in the arc of his front, right? Because this is his front. It goes around to this one. So anything that's in that arc does not have advantage. Now, that doesn't mean we have disadvantage. We just don't have advantage. So that means we're going to only draw one card against number 1, but we get to draw 2 cards against number 3. I know that this was long-winded, but it's the most simple of simple. I can't tell you enough how much Board Game Geek, though, is having convulsions over this. I don't understand it. And so, as you might be familiar, there's a really cool YouTuber, Paul Grogan, that does the gaming rules video. And he is actually on the Board Game Geek forums learning about this game and talking about this game. And sure enough, somebody is debating with him about this whole thing. And anyways, it's nuts. Paul Grogan, you got it right. If you ever watch my channel, first of all, I'm honored. And then secondly, I'm a big fan. And then thirdly, you got it right, dude, and these people are crazy. That's all I have to say. All right, so getting back to this. You have to declare your target, right? Because we're going to draw this top card, and we have to live with it. So I can't draw the top card and say, oh, I meant to be... because this top card could be the miss, and the miss is a nasty card. So we're going to shoot number 1 first, okay? So here we go. I got a +1. So the attack normally does 1 damage, but this adds +1, so now I did 2 damage against number 1. So let me put this down. And number 1 is this guy up here. And we did 2 damage, and we have to damage the shields first. And then we take a red cube, and we stunned him. So I'm going to put it in the stun section. So when it becomes his turn, we can make sure we remind ourselves that he's stunned. Now, people make a big deal about the fact that we can put that little red cube on his little thing, shows that he's stunned, and we're not putting things here. I honestly think that putting things here is better, but it's because I've played FFG games forever, back when FFG still made cool games, and I don't have a problem with it personally. I think that having to look over at these other cards to see what the condition is actually worse, because we can miss it sometimes. Okay, we got to keep going. We got to do number 3. So you don't reshuffle your deck. So this card is now discarded. And I'm just going to create a little discard pile here for him. And we keep going. There are 2 cards in here that make you reshuffle the discard. It is the ×2 card and the miss card. And there's a little special symbol written on them. Here, I'm going to grab the other modifier deck. So this is another. See that little symbol there? That means reshuffle. So you're going to take the discard pile and reshuffle it. Until you get that symbol, you do not reshuffle. So that +1 is gone. And if you look at the distribution of cards, that means that the chances are getting worse and worse that I'm going to get a positive card now. But we have advantage. So here's the first one. So we got a 0, which is healthy. So I only did 2 damage, but that's fine. And so we're going to take the ×2. When you have advantage, you draw, and then you pick which one you want. I'm going to pick this one. So we're going to do 2 damage, and then that little symbol means we now have to shuffle the deck. So we're going to go ahead and do that. So, cards. I mean, even the 0 is a happy card. The only thing you don't want the -1s, and of course you don't want the miss. Now, the miss would have caused the stun to not take effect. That stun effect only happens if you do actual hit. Even if you hit for 0 damage, you still stun them. So you don't even have to do damage. It's okay to do 0 damage in your hit, but you have to stun them. Now, one of the things that this character has, because remember we switched him to Jardian, it says that if he does 0 damage, he will lose a stress. Right now he has no stress, so we don't have to worry about it. But that's part of the reason, is this stun only does 1 damage. And there's going to be a lot of times where he's going to do no damage based on the card draw. Okay, so number 6 here is this guy. And so we only did 2 damage to him because it doesn't do a whole lot. However, he is also stunned. And this is what we wanted. We wanted him to be stunned, both of them. So When it's their turn, they're going to do movement and all this stuff, but they won't be able to shoot. So we're in good shape. Now we got to hit this other guy with everybody that we have left. And so Starla is going to go first, and she's going to give out some candy. So Starla has this card here, which is called Sacrifice. And I believe we're going to use a movement die for this. I have to measure it out. And one thing I also forgot, this EMP blast, when we used it, its charges are down to 2. We started with 3. Excuse me, now it's down to 2. This self-sacrifice is 2, and now it's going to be down to 1. We're going to take a hull damage for self-sacrifice, but then we're going to bolster 2 people within range 3. And I'll talk about what that is in a second. I'm going to move the cube down to 1. I'm going to take a hull damage, so she's down to 5 hull strength. And then I got to reach across the table, and I'm going to get some bolster cards. And the bolster cards look like this. So they have the little arrow and with the little graph bars, right? That's a bolster card. And these are ×2 cards. And that's why I call them candy, because they're awesome and loaded with sugar. So she gets to give this to 2 people. And so she's going to give this to Violet Ray and Enver. She can give it to herself as well, but she's going to give it to them. So 1 has to go to each one. You can't give 2 to the same person, at least not with this action. So what that means is it gets shuffled into their deck. It is possible we could play the whole mission and never see the card. But now they have an extra ×2 chance in their deck. And that's what we mean by giving candy. Now, there was a price to be paid. She took a hull damage to do this. So her ship is now damaged, and she's more susceptible to being killed. But that's what the command ship does, sort of. She's boosting all the allies around her. And so I just finished shuffling the Enver deck, and now I'm shuffling Violet Ray. And so we're going to get a nice ×2 in their deck somewhere, and that increases the chances that we're going to get some nice hits in. So let's see how that plays out for us. I don't know. It's possible to go the whole mission and never see that card. Okay, here's the other thing that's beautiful. Starla took a turn and played a die, but she doesn't have to finish her turn like the way Jaredin did. We can now switch. There is no order to anything. It's not, hey, it's my turn. I got to do all my dice, and then it'll be your turn. That's not the case. Jaredin spent all of his dice like he did to stun those two guys, but he didn't have to do it all at once. He could have waited to see, what we did. So Starla went once. Now she's going to wait. And we're going to let these guys go now. So we're going to go ahead and let's do Violet Ray. And Violet Ray has this Proton Blast, which is nice. But the Proton Blast only does 2 damage. And I'm not sure that it matters. So we're going to do... Violet Ray would have started facing this direction. And we're going to do the Burn and Flip. So I'm going to use a stress die. So I gain 1 stress. And I'm going to move 1, 2, 3, 4, and then flip around, and then I can rotate. Now, I didn't talk about stress very much, but here's what happens. If you look at the stress, and I don't know how easy it is for you to see on camera, but there's a little square around the 3, and another one around the 5, a 7, and then the 10. So if you get the 3 stress, a miss card gets shuffled into your deck. So if you play Gloomhaven, it's a curse card. If you get to 5, another miss card gets shuffled into your deck. If you ever drop it below 5 or below 3, you get to go into your deck and take it out. So if you go all the way up to 5, you'll have 2 miss cards shuffled in your deck. If you went then back to 0, both of those miss cards would be removed. If you go to 7, then you start drawing trauma cards. And those are all bad things, and you don't want those. And then if you go to 10, you draw more trauma cards, and then the 10 resets to 0. And once it resets to 0, those miss cards that you had in your deck stay there. And then if you ever go to 3, you get another miss card. And then you go to 5, which is actually 15, you would get another miss card. And that's on top of all the trauma cards you also have. So don't let that happen. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do the burn. And what that is I said it moves 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it flips around like this. Okay, but since we use the stress die on it, that lets us do a rotate. So our rotate is going to go like that. So just like that, we're aimed right up his butt. So we're going to become a proctologist here. Violet Ray is a pilot by day and proctologist by night. And we're going to go ahead and, let's see, who's Violet Ray? I got to get this right. Mindy was the one that gives out the candy. Josh is the stunner. This one, oh, that's Andrew. Of course it's Andrew, proctologist Andrew. Well done, sir. Okay, so Andrew is going to, we could use the proton blast, but the proton blast does 2 damage. It hits multiple targets, and it requires 2 dice, which that part's not a bad part. But there's a number of charges. We only have 3 charges. We're going to instead do the basic action. And so I'm going to bring the camera back to show you. The basic action looks like this. It goes 3 forward and then it does 2 on the sides. The proton blast is very similar, just a little wider. But if you do 2 dice on the basic action, it also does 2 damage just to 1 target, but we only have 1 target, so we're not worried about it. So I'm going to go ahead and do 2 dice here on 1 target in front of us, and it will be, of course, number 6 here. So I have the deck of cards. I'm going to put it right here. We're going to go ahead and just draw the cards here. So Andrew has advantage on 6 because he is proctologist number 1. So we're going to go ahead and draw 2 cards and take the best of the 2. So here's the first one, -2. Second one, -1. Well, that was an easy choice. We're going to take the -1. So normally that would do 2 damage, but it got reduced to 1 damage. So number 6 only took 1 damage. And I'm realizing I damaged the wrong one last time. When I stunned number 6. But I really stunned number 3. So, okay. Number 6 takes 1 damage, so he's down to 2 shields. That was actually very poor. Oh, I forgot. I was supposed to declare this before I drew the cards. But proximity exploit. If Andrew has advantage, he gets +1 damage. It does cost a supply, but of course he would have done it. He had advantage. Sometimes you can play a whole game and not even get to do that. So he would have done that, and that does 1 more damage. So now number 6 is down to 1 shield. Okay. I am realizing that Andrew did not need to use this die. So what we're going to do is we're not going to use this stress die. Well, yeah, we had to. We had to. Yeah, because that gave us a free rotation. So I could use this to do a free rotation by going here. And the only logic here is that I don't want, this guy getting behind me and shooting me. So I could rotate like this, which puts me in a safer spot. I don't think it saves me that much, but saving the die doesn't do you any good. So you might as well use it. Okay, so Andrew's turn is over. I was a little disappointed. I was hoping to do a lot more damage than just that, but yeah, that is all he can do. Now, Enver has this card. Burst Fire. And so you can see the little pattern here. He's got to get up close and personal. He can hit 2 targets for 3 damage or 2 targets for 2 damage. We're not worried about that. We just need to get him up close and personal. That's the key thing with him. He does have a stress die, so he may gain a stress. And he also has burn and flip. Now, we have him sitting here. Get up close and personal. We got some weirdness here, because I could turn like we could have him start this way and go 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Then he has to rotate, and then he's too far away, and then he has to move a little bit more. And that's exactly what we're going to do. So we're going to put the stress die on the burn and flip. And that gives him 1 stress. But he moves with that 1, 2, 3, 4. Then it's going to flip him around like that. Okay, but because we played a stress die on it, and let me get this out for you. So this is what we're doing, right? So he moved 1, 2, 3, 4 and flipped. And I'm realizing I needed to spend the charge on these guys. So he did 1, 2, 3, 4 and flip. And then because he played this, he gets a rotate. So we're going to rotate him now to be facing towards that ship. However, now that that's done, he has burst fire, which you can see only goes 2 in front of him. So that would be these 2, and then these 2, and then these 2. So it misses the guy. So it's not enough. So you can see here he needs 2 dice for this. One of them could be a move. This is a wild. It could be a move or an attack. So we're going to go ahead and put the attack and then the move here, right? And there's still 1 die left for Enver. And this is JB. So 1 die left for JB. So he's going to go ahead and move forward and turn, which is the action we did for the other player. So this is where, remember we got that free rotate? I may, change my mind here, but I think this is still going to work. So if we move forward and then we turn, so does he have the ability to shoot this way? And then we look at this card, and sure enough, he does. See, he can shoot all 3 of his front-facing hexes, which is 1, 2, and 3. This is the 3rd one. So I'm going to get advantage on 6, and 6 is in range, and we're going to do 3 damage, potentially, to him. And I had already reduced the supply by 1, and let me get this put away. So there's only charge left on that attack, but we're going to potentially do 3 damage. And so we have his deck here. I shuffled it. So we're going to just put that here. And with advantage, I'm going to get to draw 2 cards. Here's the first one. Ooh, there's a +2. That's a very welcome one. And there's a +1. So a bit of a waste, but we will still. So JB just did 5 damage to this guy. So that's really good. It's not enough to kill him, but it's still very good. And his shields are gone. So there's 1, and then 2, 3, 4, 5. And I know that's sort of hard to see, but basically he's down to 5 health. And remember, because we're playing hard mode, he got 3 bonus health and 3 bonus shields. So he's down to 5 health right now. We gave him 6 health because we're playing in the Abyss hard mode. That guy would have been dead in a normal game. We would have already killed him. So I'm just trying to help you understand the difference. So if you're playing a normal game at home and you did the exact same thing I did, this guy would be destroyed. But instead, he's still sitting with 5 health. And then we got 2 guys here who could potentially get hit now. Because none of these guys are stunned over here. So that's an interesting conundrum for us. However, we're not done yet. We got Starla still. She gave out candy, but she could still do an attack. So we're going to do the basic move that JB just did. And I know it's behind the sparrow here, but we're going to move up 1 and then turn and then move up this way. So now you can see Starla is 2 spaces away from number 6. Now, Starla does not have advantage from this position, but she could still shoot the crap out of him. And then we got this long shot attack, which she took. It looks like this. So it skips the first spot, but it hits the next 3. So here you can see it skips and then it hits. So that is a perfectly good thing. And it also does 3 damage if we use 2 dice. And we have exactly 2 dice right here. So we're going to go ahead and take that down with Starla. The problem is that it has 5 health. I don't think I can kill him. And I'm only drawing 1 card. The only card that can kill him is if I draw the doubler, which I don't think I'm going to be able to draw. I mean, there's at least 20 some cards in here. And then we don't even have advantage, so we're only taking the top card. We did draw a +1 though, which is awesome. So that +1 then turns it into 4 damage. And so number 6 here, believe it or not, is sitting on 1, 2, 3, 4. It's sitting on 1 health. We almost killed that sucker. But there's nothing else I can do, folks. Every single die has been used up and played. So the player's turn is now over. Now it's time for the enemy's turn. And we are very, very far into the game. So I'm going to have to do that in the next video. But in case you're wondering, how do the enemies work? We are going to have these cards here, which is the... And then we have the Ronin Frigate deck, which is a bunch of AI cards. And I really should sleeve these because look how they're getting scuffed. But you basically shuffle them up. So that's the Scout. And then we would draw the first one, right? And then we have the Ronin, I'm sorry, that was the Frigates. These are the Scouts. And then we would draw the first one of those. And we'll do this, we'll resolve this in the next video, but basically the Scout has a 2 on the bottom, so he goes first. It has a 6, so he goes last. And then the Scouts that are on the board, there's multiple Scouts, they go in the number order that's written on them. So, for example, this number 6 is going to go last of all the Scouts that are out there. And then they would just go in their numeric order, and they all follow the exact same command. And then once we're done with all 6 of them doing this command, we then go here and have him do his commands. And then once he's done, then it's our turn again. We gain a shield, we roll dice, and we rinse and repeat until somebody wins. Okay, so I'm going to just leave these cards here. My battery on my camera is dying, and I can't continue, even if I wanted to. And then what makes matters worse is I got to go put it on a charger. So I wanted to finish this tonight before I went to bed. I'm not even sure I can do that. I really hope you're enjoying this so far. I think I need to get better at when I roll the dice and I'm choosing my actions to let you see what I'm doing. But beyond that, it's a pretty fun game. I really like it. And I've pointed out the various places where the rules get a little wonky or people are arguing over things. But even with that, it's still easier than Dungeon Universalis. Anyways, thanks for watching. As always, stay awesome.